Trustee Valen, it's 7. Mr. Parker, can you let us know when we're ready? Okay. Good evening. It's 7 p.m. and I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Education for Greenburgh Central School District. First item on our agenda is A2, Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone will please stand. The flag is to my left. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. First item on our agenda is an anticipated adjournment to the executive session. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that we adjourn to executive session to discuss collective bargaining negotiations, the employment history of particular persons, personnel matters, and/or employee records, and matters deemed confidential by state or federal law, including seeking advice from counsel.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Trustee Valen.
I'd just like to add information relating to proposed pending or current litigation.
Do you want to amend your motion, Trustee Warner?
I do.
So amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We're now in executive session. We should be out by 8 p.m. promptly. Okay, trustees, room 100. Mr. Parker, we're ready anytime. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's now 8:30 p.m., not 8 sharp as planned. And the first item on our agenda is introduction of new hires. Ivy, do we have any new hires? Okay, and the second item on our agenda is a public comment. Do we have any public commenters? Okay, next item on our agenda is Richard J. Bailey Elementary School presentation. And I see Ms. Frosty in the audience. We are ready for you. And Dr. Iverson's getting a call. She said come down. Okay.
I thought I had it all. I'm sorry.
You got to put it.
I panicked.
Okay.
Check, check.
Thank you. No. Sorry, I would offer popcorn, but Ms. Khan doesn't allow anybody to eat in the auditorium. Yes, yes, yes. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for coming and joining us at R.J. Bailey. I hope you're nice and comfortable in the brand new seats. And so tonight I have Ms. Khan with me, and what we're going to do is show you what's happening at R.J. Bailey. We're not going to say much. We have a lot of videos, but we just want you to see and ask any questions that you have of any of the programs that we're having. And so we'll move from there. In August, Dr. Iverson had, at the Superintendent Conference Day, she spoke about it being a year of sustainability. So we really weren't introducing anything new, but we were making everything better in terms of IB, the SEL, the IB Learner Profile, restorative practices, and as you can see in the middle there, in the center of it all is our students. It says student discourse, but everything centers around discourse. When Ms. Khan and I began to think about what it is that we wanted to showcase for R.J. Bailey, we wanted to put the students at the center. So everything you see is what we're doing with the students, what we're working on, some of the programs that we're implementing in order to help the students become advocates for themselves in terms of what they want, what they need, not only socially and emotionally, but also instructionally. So that's the lens that we're going to look through with everything, and then any questions, we can go from there. So we start with SEL. SEL, we started a few years ago, and you know, a lot of the things that we discuss with SEL sound like common sense. But when we think about it, we really realize that a lot of what we're learning has to be explicit. So what we did is we still continue to do morning SEL activities with the home-based teacher and a special area teacher in every single classroom. So from 8 to 8:10, they're either having conversations with each other, they're having conversations with the teacher, or they're doing a little bit of role play. And the topics can vary based upon their experiences that week, that weekend, the day before, regardless. So it kind of comes from them. But the day before Thanksgiving, we really wanted to send the kids out with a fun day, and we had our Winter SEL Day. It was a school-wide event, and it was coordinated by the school SEL committee. So we have a school SEL committee, and then we have a district SEL committee. And basically what the teachers did is they got together and they said, how can we make this day fun, and also the students can learn, and allow them to have some sense of choice of what their day is going to look like. So for all of the ELA blocks, if you look to the lower left, it says there were a lot of activities around mindfulness. It included plays, acting out. I'll click on the link soon so you could see the plethora of activities under each area. For math, they were playing games. And in science and social studies, you'll see what I mean by art blocks when we go down and look at the specific items. And this is where the students had their choice with specials, the specialist assignments. There was open library, gym, karaoke, choice art card making, coding, comic room, yoga, mindful drumming. There was a movie in the afternoon, and then some of our 6th graders, along with our parent/trustee, Jacobson, and we created a mural downstairs that is a No Place for Hate, which Mitch Kahn is going to go into more detail. Luke, if you do me a favor, can you just click where it says SEL activities? So this is what went out to all of the students. And if you see where it says 4th grade special survey, 5th grade, and 6th grade, it was sent to each of the students by their home-based teacher, and the students were able to select what it is that they wanted to do during their specials that day. And there was a maximum number for each section, and then all of the teachers received a roster of who was going to attend their class for a certain period so that they can take attendance, and the kids absolutely ate it up, especially since it was their choice. There was 1 or 2 incidences where the student was not happy with their choice, and if we were able to, we made accommodations ongoing. Luke, if you scroll down, please. So you could see the SEL competency focus for this SEL day was self-management and social awareness. So this is what we focused on, and every single content area had a mini lesson. There was a mini lesson for ELA, for math. Look, if you can just scroll down. So all of the students got to see this before, and you could see the links that the students were able to click on, or the teachers. So we also made it easier for the content area teachers, so they too had a choice within the choice. And it just made everybody's day really, really relaxing. You could see under the ELA blocks, you know, look, if you could scroll up, you could see their focus question is, the discussion questions, what do you like to do to distress? So a lot of it was role-playing with the students, mindfulness, breathing activities. There was a lot encompassed in those. And so this document goes on for every single content area. Look, I think you can, if you can X out. Yes, please. So these are some of the items that Ms. Khan and I are going to share with you tonight. Again, everything focuses around student advocacy, and students are at the center of it all. So we're going to see some videos of our student council. Ms. Khan is going to discuss a new initiative that we put in place with our grade 5 representatives. We have No Place for Hate Committee, which is another group of students that are representing their classrooms. That's all 3 grades, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And then we're going to show you a little bit of what student discourse looks like in a 4th grade math class, focusing on area and perimeter. This is our school president, Amy Alfie. She is a 6th grade student.
Good evening. My name is Amy Alfie, and I'm the president of Student Council at Richard J. Bailey. I will be acting as a lead representative at RJB, overseeing organizing events and communicating important ideas to help make our experience at this school the best it can be. Tonight, I will share with you how Student Council functions. The RJB Student Council members have a very important job. Some things we do include sharing ideas and plans with the school principal and teachers, helping to organize special school events, identifying our student thoughts about the school environment and representing them at meetings, working to make our school a fun and safe place, representing our school for important events, and supporting the members of our school and local community. Next, I'd like to introduce our Vice President, Uli Cook.
Good evening. My name is Uli Cook. I am the Vice President, and I will be supporting our President with some of our plans for this school year. We will begin with working together and supporting the unveiling of our new auditorium during the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Other plans we have are to collect donations for families affected by the fires in Los Angeles, planning for improved indoor and outdoor recess activities, and creating a 6th grade mentoring program to collaborate with our 5th and 4th grade students. These are just a few of the ideas from the Student Council. I would like to introduce Sydney Brooks, our secretary.
Good evening. My name is Sydney Brooks, and I'm the secretary at R.J. Bailey School. My responsibilities include supporting the Student Council by keeping our thoughts and plans organized. Every single person in our school community is unique and special, with their own thoughts, ideas, experiences, and opinions. Student voice is when students express and share these at school, and the ideas are used to make the school a more positive, inclusive, interesting, and supportive place for all students. It is about the children and adults working together to make big decisions and making sure that your ideas are heard. Our school believes that this is really important. We look forward to a wonderful year at R.J. Bailey.
Thank you from the Student Council.
So again, they campaign, they rally, they try to bribe with lollipops and Jolly Ranchers, you name it, they tried, but the campaign was real. And they were really just pulling for each other, and the greatest thing of all is that when the winners were declared, all of the students cheered them on. So it was really wonderful to see that they were chosen by their peers. and they work with Miss Williams and Miss Fazzino in the 6th grade.
Sometimes turkey.
Luke, can you just put on?
Good evening, everyone. So this is our 5th grade class representatives. So what we did was we chose 2 students from each home-based class to represent the 5th grade. The 5th graders have so much to say, and they want to make sure that their voices are heard, and they want to see certain changes happen at RJ Bailey. So this is one of our meetings that we held, and I make it an official meeting. I let them know they have to sign an attendance sheet, we have an agenda, we have someone taking minutes, and so that they know when I come back and share the minutes from the previous meeting, they check off to see which things were changed from their suggestions. So they're really hard on me. You can go ahead and play.
Sometimes turkey. I can't eat ham. I thought the ham was turkey for the longest, and I kept eating it.
Oh, did you have an allergic reaction?
No, it's just against my religion.
Oh, got it. Okay, I get that.
So I thought we could put like a tag saying this is turkey, this is ham, this is, well, obviously cheese.
Okay.
Let's say, like, I don't know.
You want to know what to think about it?
Yeah.
I have a question. Say for everybody here, like the fruit granola snack bar cup things were actually really good, like the ones with the yogurt.
Oh, yeah.
So you want more of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Maddie?
Well, I agree with Chris, and also for like the games, I think we should also rotate, because I agree with Emily, because it might take up a lot of space and stuff, and like as you said about the fire drills and things. But also, I also agree with Devin because a lot of people do enjoy the Connect 4, as like I go to lunch and I see people like using it and having a lot of fun.
So we do notice when children have more of a say in what's happening during the school day, during lunchtime, during recess, then we see children who are producing and doing exactly what we want them to do, being emotionally, socially, and educationally safe. We'll move on to the next. Oh, sorry. Thank you. All right, so No Place for Hate. This is a very exciting initiative that is in all schools in our school district. And it's a student-led program that we're really trying to stomp out any type of anti-bullying, any type of hate towards our students. And the nice part about it, like I said, it is student-led. The children are coming up with their own ideas on how we're going to address any issues that they're having during lunchtime, during the regular school day, just to make sure that everyone feels safe and they are heard. So we talk about any topics such as bias, bullying, inclusion, and allyship. So we had our first program where we introduced the program to the assembly, where we introduced the program to the entire school community, and the students, they wrote their little script, and they just basically took over and led the whole assembly. We have some 4th grade student representatives, 5th grade student representatives, as well as 6th grade. We had little caps made for them, and they did the mural that is downstairs next to the cafeteria. Now, this new initiative, which I call PABS, is the Protecting All Bailey Students, and that is an initiative with the Greenburgh Police Department, where we're going to start having these conversations, intimate conversations with the students within a restorative circle. So one thing that we did notice, we take a lot of needs assessments, and one thing we did notice was that the students are having issues, especially when it comes to bullying. Cyberbullying is a huge thing. I was so happy when TikTok got banned. And so we're having these issues going on that spills into our school day. So it happens at home. We don't have control of the cell phones, but we're having these issues spill into our school day, and of course, it's bothering our students. So we had Officer Henry come in and have a conversation with parents first at our last parent and principal coffee chat, and so we decided, okay, well, now we need to spill out into the school community and have these conversations with students. So Officer Henry is working really hard for us to really schedule us to come in, because I said, well, can we do an assembly? She said, no, that's not effective. We need to have small, intimate conversations to have a real impact on what's really happening. So we're going to use restorative circles to have these intimate conversations with students, staff, and the police officers to address any potential physical or emotional risks that the students may have that's going to really bother their sense of security. We're going to create this supportive and inclusive atmosphere where students feel valued and, of course, respected. That's our first and foremost priority. And we're going to build a network of support also for parents. So Officer Henry had a plethora of information that we'll be handing out to the students once we have these conversations that talk about anti-bullying and things that we can do, parents can do at home to really, help them with the cyberbullying and making those right choices for their students. And basically, we're just cultivating a nurturing environment where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. I noticed 3 things that our children need. They need patience, they need time, and they need relationships to be really successful. And I really think that that is our major goal for this year, and we will absolutely work towards that. Oh, did you want?
Thank you, Ms. Khan. So it was interesting because the students, the focus that the 5th grade students have right now is really on making their lunches better. So there were some things that they liked from the former company. And one day, Pat from I think it's called Whitson's, he happened to be here making some deliveries, and one of the tables asked if they can bring back shredded cheese instead of melted cheese. I said, well, here's the guy to talk to, and they were not shy. They would tell him, we like this, get rid of this, we want this. He made a whole list. And now Ms. Khan and I are going to meet with him about what changes he can make within the food program. But it really makes them feel good when they know that they were heard. After that meeting that Ms. Khan and I had with the 5th grade, we brought them upstairs and we showed them all of the games that we purchased for them to use at recess. And the whole debate was, where are we going to put the table tennis? Because we have a net that goes across the table, so we were discussing safety. Well, it can't go in this hallway in case we have an emergency, so that's what we're trying to figure out. But they're excited because now they really believe that we're listening. So here is, student discourse was at the center of everything. And just wanted to show you 4th graders are new to the school. Student discourse is not area and perimeter. And you're going to see a clip here where one of the students says to her friends, I'm glad, but why are you talking to them? You should be talking to us, because she was looking into the camera. Look.
In this group, I see that there's 2 different models.
So this is the area one, this is the perimeter one.
So tell me about the perimeter.
So I think...
Or Dream, why don't you tell us about the perimeter?
Okay, so I think it should like do like 6 plus 9 like two times, or like adding length plus width plus length plus width.
Beautiful. Can you tell me what the perimeter covers? Is it the inside, like the area, or the border?
It's the area of the border.
Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you.
Sev, can you tell us about the area that you did?
Yes. So, the perimeter was the area was 54 because we timed in 6 by 9, so we got that. And then we picked every single block that we could to get it in there. It was very stressful. Gotta be honest. Keep working.
Okay, so we need to write the places first. Yeah. So 15 times 7, we got 105 in area. And then as a perimeter was 15 plus 7 plus 7 is 44 yards. Art room, we could add more. Yeah, we should write the places in the middle. Yeah, because then like draw 1, 2. And then 7 yards as width, and then 15 yards as length, which we could add. We're definitely adding more places.
as you can hear, it's a very busy classroom. There was group work going on. The teacher was not visible. There were 2 teachers in the room at that particular time. One teacher was doing a small group while the other teacher was going around to the classes. And it's busy, but it's all good noise. They're all talking about math. Some kids are doing independent work and just figuring things out together without the teacher interjecting, kind of letting them make mistakes and learn from their mistakes. That's a typical 4th grade classroom. And you could see the vocabulary is being used with length and width instead of saying this side or that side. So we're very happy to hear that vocabulary being used as well.
And this
The IB program is each year we revisit the units as we're getting to the units. So we kind of reflect on what we did last year and look at the reflections that we had last year about how to make it better. And then we set time aside for the teachers to meet, to revisit the units and to see, implement whatever changes that they see necessary. This is a 4th grade. They were working on how the world works. 5th grade, how we organize ourselves. So we had a big campaign with the 5th grade, and it was a huge dilemma here. Would you rather have a 1-day no homework pass, or would you rather have a recess period, free recess period, they kept saying that's extra. It's not instead of, it's extra. So this was, they were convincing each other of how they should vote. And so there were various ways in which the students can voice their opinion. They can do it through presentations, they can do it through writing. Some kids went, and they actually videoed a campaign that, and hold on to your seats because they're funny.
Hi guys, my name is Gabriel Geddes, and I will tell you why you should vote for extra recess. Number 1, recess makes me and other people feel happy because you get to have time outside, you get to have fun, etc. Number 2, times with friends. Times with friends, you can play with them, you can talk to them, you can dance with them, you can basically do everything with them in recess. Number 3, try new things. When I was here in 4th grade, I didn't know what the schools were like. I didn't know where the specials are. I didn't know where the teachers were. I didn't know the teachers' names. I even didn't know the recess yard. And now I'm in 5th grade. I get to used to it. I love the recess yard. Number 4, why recess is good for you. Recess is good for you because it can help your legs, it can help your body, and especially it can help your brain. And yeah, that's why I vote for extra recess, and you should too. Bye.
And so these were done at home, and then they shared them. So they had their choice of how they wanted to. And click on this next one.
Hello, my name is Candace Fine, and these are my reasons why we should have homework. So, reason 1. Picture this. You're coming home from school. Finally home from school, but I'm so tired. You say, but then your mom's like, Nava! Time for sports activities. Or Nava! Time for after school art. Or Nava! Time for religious school. Any sports activities, anything after school you can't do homework at. And then you finally get home, all you want to do is go home, take a bath, eat dinner, and go to bed. That is it. Well, we can't do that because we have homework. Reason 2. For example, look at me when I have homework. And look at me when I don't have homework. And today we have a special guest. Go.
Hey, my name's Ruff Ruff. And oh man, does your hair look messy? What did you do? put your finger in an electrical outlet? That's really dangerous. And homework really messes with your hair. Now let me see that other picture. Wow, that's way better. You look so pretty when you don't have homework. I don't ever want to see that other picture again. It just scares me. Makes me want to run and hide underneath the bed. Well,
And be like,
you know what? I think this is a perfect argument on not to have homework for a day. So let's vote. No homework for a day.
go. One. And I'm not McKenna, that's fine. And this is why I'm voting for the whole 5th grade to not have homework for a day. So I don't look like this. And you don't look like that.
Right, so they both got their points across in a non-traditional way, and that's really the whole premise behind the IB and behind having student voice and allowing them to display what they know in their own ways. So we all have talents in different ways, and you know, obviously you could see that their talents there as well. And the 6th grade is the Who We Are mixer. Ms. Khan was outside with them. You want to just describe what they did during that activity?
So the students and the teachers, they used the double circle, the inner circle, and they, with the outer circle, rotated, and they just basically introduced themselves, who they were. They talked about questions to really help them socialize. What we've been finding is that our students, they get stuck. They're so used to just looking on the phones, even at play dates. They're not talking, they're not socializing. So this was a great opportunity just to basically get to know who our friends are and who our classmates are. We're celebrating diversity, we're celebrating, and we want to appreciate all of our classmates. So this is one of the strategies that the 6th grade teachers used.
And that's an important point that Ms. Khan, brings. Last week I had a young student who was not very happy. So I said, why don't you bring up your lunch and eat in my office? You're not punished, just take some time and think. So I said, if you had one friend that you can have lunch with, who would it? He named his friend, we brought his friend upstairs, and they were just staring at each other. I said, so I have work to do, but why don't you guys have a conversation? They're just staring. I said, why don't you talk about what you can do over the weekend? And then it started. I said, I promise I'm not listening. I'm working here. I'm just making sure. And then they started. But it's right. We're trying to teach them to start conversations so that they could socialize more, just because they're used to. And, not their fault. It's technology, and the pandemic did it with COVID and being shut down. So we're just trying to wean them off of the devices and have them socialize with each other more. And this goes to our focus with the PLCLT group. That is our professional learning community leaders workshop. That's Dr. Iverson and Dr. Njoku meet with the administrators and representatives from all of the schools, and we talk about what our focus is. So this year we're focusing on the first domain. I just took a snippet from the website under the SEL category and just wanted to show everybody what our focus is, and we're going to continue trying to help the students develop self-awareness, making right choices. And so these are the 2 standards that we're focusing on, and there are some examples of those skills. So it's a work in progress, but we are working on it. And this is basically R.J. Bailey for the first half of the 24-25 school year. If there are any questions or comments.
Okay. Good job. So how do we were trying to get over COVID for several years to make up for the deficits in social learning. And it looks like we're doing that. And it sounds like on top of it, we're making up for the social deficits caused by the technology revolution. Mm-hmm. So have we reached normalcy yet?
I think we're getting there. I think Ms. Khan and I were talking. It's been since last year's cohort where we're seeing, what was typical 9, 10, 11-year-old behaviors. And those are the ones that are starting to resurface again, which I think is okay. It's developmentally appropriate, and they're learning from one another. So we're definitely close to it.
Looks good.
Hi, I just want to thank you, Ms. Rossi and Ms. Khan. It is late in the evening, but I did want to thank you. Ms. Rossi is the principal here now for several years, brought us through COVID, and Ms. Khan is the, I want to get the right term, the right name of the position.
She's the guru of it all.
I know, what is it called? Climate, and what's the, thank you. The Restorative Practices and School Culture Coordinator. Thank you. So I did want to say thank you guys. I thought it was a wonderful presentation. Do any trustees have questions along with Trustee Warner's question? Anything?
Did you want to know who won no homework or recess?
Yeah.
Your kids didn't come home telling you?
No.
No recess. I mean, I'm sorry, extra recess.
Extra recess. Okay, wonderful. And when do they get that extra recess?
They received it with Mrs. Khan. It was during one of the specials. So all the specialists and Ms. Khan and the monitors and myself, we took them outside.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Did you have any questions, Trustee Val? I see you writing. No? Okay. Gosh, I wanted to talk about some things. There were so many good things. The No Place for Hate, the PABS, Protecting All Bailey Students, was amazing. So I don't know if these are all new initiatives you guys came up with this year, but it's absolutely amazing. I did want to ask about staff and training for staff. I heard with the PABS, the office you're talking about having intimate chats. What about staff and support around staff with understanding the No Place for Hate and PABS?
In terms of the No Place for Hate initiative, that is something that we do have ongoing conversations with the staff about during faculty meetings. And whenever there's something that we are doing, they are part of that. We also are still continuing to use the restorative circles. In the morning, the staff meets with their home-based class. They welcome them. They have conversations about what's happening. And then I'm noticing now that we're probably going to start incorporating probably like a midday check-in, because a lot of times, even though we do resolve a lot of issues during recess or during the cafeteria lunchtime, a lot of times it spills over into the classroom, but I try to avoid that. I try to get them ready for learning after they leave recess, calming themselves down. They have to take a deep breath before they leave the cafeteria and getting their bodies and their minds ready for learning again. So I try to resolve a lot of those issues. However, if there is an issue, then the staff will have a restorative circle within the classroom. One of the things that we did do at a faculty meeting was that we gave the staff a little booklet that has just quick strategies, quick tips to hold the restorative circle, so that they don't have to really go back into the text, even though they did use the text last year. So in just continuing and sustaining what we learned in professional development, we still have this little handy booklet just to refer to in terms of any ideas or any strategies that they can use within a classroom setting.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then Ms. Rossi, you named the food, and ironically enough, we were just talking about that before this meeting, and hearing feedback from other students about the food. So I'm happy they came to you to talk to you about the foods. And it sounds like you guys are talking with the vendor. Are there any parents involved in that? Not that there have to be, since it's in the school, but if not involved, maybe at the principal's coffee to explain to them, because sometimes kids come home to parents and talk about the food, and then so that stuff that you're doing in the school doesn't come out to home, but the complaint may come out to the home.
And if it does, we honestly welcome that feedback. All feedback is good feedback. So if the students are saying something about a lunch, Ms. Conda is down there with all 3 lunch periods, but usually they share with us what it is that they really like and what they wish they had from the former company. You know, so we're working with them, and we could definitely have that conversation at the next principal's coffee. And Pat has been very receptive, and he's been listening even with the students. He was very impressed about, it was a group of 6th grade girls, and he was impressed that they were comfortable enough to share with him. Because they said to me, I said, he's the guy to talk to. I just happened to be standing here, so. You know, again, well, we're really trying to promote students really speaking up for themselves.
Right.
In all aspects. Right. And sometimes when I make phone calls, like we had a student today who was not happy, he wasn't comfortable sharing with me or with Miss Preston or his teacher. We said, okay, when you're ready, let us know. He said, I'd like to tell my mom. I said, no problem. I called Mom. I said, Mom, we don't know what's bothering him. We don't know what's happened. She then told us. But again, at least he took it upon himself to say that he was not happy and he wasn't ready to share. And that's what we want.
Okay, great. Trustee Valen has a question.
Yeah, I really appreciate the anecdote about the children in your office at lunch and hearing about the 6th grade Who We Are mixer. I really hope you're going to do a few more of those, because the more, and I hope it extends to other grades, especially maybe older than 6th grade. It's, getting them looking out instead of looking up. So I just really applaud those efforts. But to ask about the cause of that problem, how are we doing with cell phones being out in this building? Do you find students are trying to bring them into the building, take them out of the backpacks at inappropriate moments, and how are we addressing that?
We do know that they have them. There have been instances where the cell phone has just appeared for whatever reason, and the way that we handle it is we'll collect the phone and the child will come back at dismissal. I'll say, listen, this is a one-time. Next time we'll call the parent, and the parent has to come get it. I have worked with parents where one parent was in the city. It was actually either a long weekend or we were gonna have a break. And I said to the parent, I'm going to give it to him, please explain. So we haven't seen that cell phone yet, but it's a partnership. So, we don't mind the kids have it. Kids need it for all various reasons, depending on where they're going. Parents sometimes talk to the kids to and from the bus stop to make sure they're getting there. So it really is not, I think, a chronic problem. It happens sporadically here and there, but I really think that it's pretty much under control. Now, can they sneak it? They can, but, they're learning.
Okay, Trustee Mann.
There was a funny video somewhere. It was a high school teacher, I don't know where, and the high school teacher gave the kids, was assessing the kids on whatever it was, stepped out of the room and stepped back in the room and turned the lights off, and all the lights from the cell phone came up. And so he knew that they were all not being very honest. I thought it was a wonderful way to just say, hey, put it away, instead of yelling at them.
Yes, very good presentation. I didn't hear anything about enrollment, so I was just wondering what that looks like. Have you seen an increase year over year? Are there any particular grades, things of that nature?
The 4th grade is the largest since I've been here. We're at 151. There was a day where a student or two could leave and then another student or two. So we're at 405, give or take one. I didn't look at the latest count last week, but it's definitely about 50 kids more than I had last year. And then in speaking to Mr. Mastrangelo, that cohort coming in is also large. So I anticipate my 6th grade needing an extra classroom if everybody remains. We'll have to open up in 2 years, not next year, for the 26-27 school year. But enrollment is there, and it's a good thing. People like what they see.
Thank you.
Any more questions, comments, concerns from trustees? Okay, excellent presentation. Thank you for staying so late. It's 9 o'clock at night. You got to turn around and be here early in the morning. You guys work really hard, both of you together. So we just have to take the time to thank you. What folks don't know is that this is a building, one of the buildings with more of the trustees here. You have me as a parent, as a board president, so I ask an awful lot of stuff. A lot of questions. How many other trustees do you have here as parents?
Don't be shy. Hands up high. Come on. We got this.
Trustee Jacobs and Trustee Mann. So you have three current board members as parents in the district, which is almost half of the board. So I think that makes it additionally difficult, right? Because we're customers as well as we're on the board, and then parents are involved and they know that we're here. So thank you for the work that you do and the pressure that you have on you. We appreciate your work, and thank you for your presentation. It was awesome.
Thank you for joining us here tonight. We appreciate and look forward to your support as well. And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Yes, we'll be here tomorrow night, 6:30, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Sharp.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So we are going to, Dr. Iverson, Dr. Njoku, and I are going to all contribute to this presentation. Luke, this is not the presentation.
So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first iteration of the 25-26 budget for Greenburgh Central School District. I'm Dr. Iverson, Superintendent of Schools. I'm joined tonight by the Assistant Superintendent for Business, Ms. Lisa Raymond, and the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Njoku. So I'm going to start, and then all of us will chime in. We think what we put together for you is a budget that sort of demonstrates the process that we use to create the budget. It is a collaborative process. We involve all our administrators. We take time to meet with each and every one of them. We want to have them tell us and to present to us what they feel they need for their business, for their building, and to be successful. So, and keeping true to the vision that they know we have in the district, that not only are we trying to balance the budget, we know that's the ultimate goal, but we're building a budget that's based around the consistent values we have here in Greenburgh Central School District, that we want to make sure that we don't sacrifice instructional programming for our students, but also present a balancing budget that keeps us within the tax cap and those parameters that we know are true to our community. So we're here tonight to present that to you. We're going to begin with, if you go to the next slide, please, with the agenda of the items that are going to be discussed. We're going in this order. Some key factors that go into consideration for the budget. What I will preface before Ms. Raymond comes is just bear in mind that this budget we're presenting tonight represents the wish list, the ultimate, if I could have everything, this is what I would love. So we did ask principals to sit around to think about that, because we want to know, and I know our board has asked, we want to know what they need. And so from here will be other iterations, as I said, but tonight, as we go through the slides, what we have is a culmination of those meetings around this agenda item. So we're going to have Ms. Raymond start, and then I'll be back up.
Thank you, Dr. Iverson. So some of the key factors that we have to remember that impact the budget is one is the Consumer Price Index, which is the primary measure for inflation. Just today, the Office of the State Comptroller released that the CPI that is going to be used for the 25-26 budget is 2.95%. Anyone who knows about the tax cap knows that we can only use the lesser of, or the greater of, 2% or whatever CPI if it's less than that. So since it's 2.95%, we will be using 2% in our tax levy cap calculation. This means that anything over the 2% for inflation, specifically the 0.95%, the district will have to absorb those costs into the budget. So the history of the inflation factors for the allowable tax levy growth, you'll see here that in 22-23, CPI was 4.7, we could only use 2%. 23-24, it was 7.91%, again, we could only use 2%. And this school year, it was 4.12%, we could only use 2%. For next year, it's 2.95%, and we can only use 2% in our calculation. Other things that we have to remember is that the labor market is competitive amongst all school districts, and there are not enough people to fill the open positions. The governor had her state-to-state address on January 14th, and the preliminary estimates, the first round of state aid numbers, were issued today. According to the governor's proposal, she's proposing to give Greenburgh a little bit more, which we will discuss in a future slide, but not as much, obviously, as that we would like. And the Rockefeller Institute did a study, and that they're going to provide the recommendations to how to improve the foundation aid funding which we're still waiting to see the results of all of that. So the tax cap factors, we now know everything. Our tax-based growth factor increased marginally, but to 1.0122. And what this is that in our town of Greenburgh, specifically in our school district, this represents the growth in construction or any major capital improvements that have been done. The allowable tax levy growth factor, as we just spoke about, will be 2%. We have pilot payments that we know of from Tarry Hill Associates and Fairview Manhattan Housing. We have a call into our assessor to see if there are any others, but we would have most likely been given a copy of those. We don't have any. I just want to double check with her to make sure that there are no other ones out there. And our capital tax levy exclusions, you know that in the past we have to exclude the BOCES capital expenses. So part of the tax cap calculation is you exclude any principal and interest, any debt service payments that you have, because the school district is obligated to pay that, which has been done in previous years or in any referendum. So BOCES capital expenses, when you vote on the capital, the budget for BOCES in April as a board, you're agreeing to pay these capital expenses. So that's something that whether the budget passed or not, you would still be obligated to pay, as well as the energy performance contract lease payment number 1 will be due in 25-26, and then phase 2, which I'm talking with our architects to plan that out to see if we would have to take a bond anticipation note or a bond during the 25-26 school year, and then that payment would be due also. All of that will be part of the tax cap calculation. So when we were developing the budget, as Dr. Iverson said, we collaborate with all of the administrators, the 3 of us, along with Mr. Pugliese, Dr. Giarrusso, Ms. Verdina, I have everybody, meet with each of the principals. Oh, and Mr. McCoy, yeah. We meet with all of the principals and administrators to see and go over what they are asking for in their budget and or what they see or the direction they would like their school to go through. So every discussion revolved around where is the district currently, whether it enhances student outcomes and achievements, and what is necessary to achieve our goals. So just to remember that not every budget request will result in a budget increase. It could involve reallocating current funding or resources, which was also part of our discussions. So we asked, Dr. Iverson asked all of the administrators, give us what you would like to see for your school. Basically, give us your needs assessment or your wish list. So what we're going to show you is the wish list of what we would like to see, and Dr. Njoku and Dr. Iverson will help me in explaining and describing some of these items per school and or department. So again, you're going to see the budget requests submitted by each administrator. These requests have been discussed, reviewed with central administration. We took about probably a week and a half to meet with everybody. The items that you're going to see are for discussion purposes, and costs will be determined when it is decided what ones of these proposed additions can be budgeted for. And if any personnel costs are budgeted, it will be all inclusive of the salary and benefits. So we're going to start with the Office of Curriculum Instruction Programs and Personnels, which is Dr. Njoku, which will also include special ed, physical education, health and athletics, world language, IB, and ENL.
Good evening. So as we go through this, we will take time to read the rationale, because part of this process was, as you do your needs assessment, the why, what is the need, so I will be reading through the rationale. So with district-wide needs assessment of the entire programming on the district level, there is a need for multilingual education coach or coordinator district-wide. Right now, English language learners, our student population increased around 90% from 123 students to 232 students over the last 4 years. There's a diversity in home languages that has expanded with 13 different languages currently being represented amongst our EL students. A large population, a large number of EL students assessed using the different assessments, New York State ELA assessments and the Regents, ELA Regents. We have multilingualism is increasing, and it's recognized here as part of our IB program. So this position is designed to serve as a vital unifying mechanism to address the growing needs of our multilingual student population, building capacity, addressing gaps and equity, and support program implementation, strengthen family partnerships, and promote college and career readiness. So this particular position is looking at specific expertise with specific licensing, specific experience to support both our bilingual and monolingual teachers across the district. The needs assessment with our special education department identified 4 areas, so one FTE for special education coach, 1 FTE for special education teacher, that's the behavior specialist teacher, SEL lead stipends for social emotional learning specifically, and then other contractual expenses. So as we look at the rationale, again, I'll take my time to go through it. Special education coach, the rationale is to provide the necessary coaching to staff to support instructional practices for students, as well as the implementation of district-wide evidence-based curriculum and practices that align with special education goals and create inclusive learning environment. This coach will collaborate with educators to strengthen differentiated instruction, will collect and analyze data, provide the continuity of various learning tools, and promote culturally responsive teaching practices. For the special education teacher, the behavior specialist, we know we hired one, and we had spoken previously of the need. The primary roles include meeting IEP mandates, conducting and completing functional behavioral assessments, and intervention. I thank you for your patience as I read, but it's important to hear the rationale. Behavioral assessments and intervention plans, participating in CSE meetings, parent outreach and staff consultations, the ability to broaden the scope of the role to include providing multi-tiered systems of supports in Tier 2 and Tier 3, interventions, applied behavioral analysis training to staff, so that's in addition to what the current person we just hired is doing, and programs and professional development to staff. Our current student population needs these services, and these services are increasing annually. For the SEL lead stipends, social emotional learning, to be fair and equitable, there seems to be a need that we've identified for stipends currently offered to PLCs in order to bring SEL work to a higher level, to have staff take the lead to provide varied responsibilities. So as we saw with RJ Bailey's last slide with the SEL, self-awareness, just providing those supports and structures to push it forward. Contractual expenses, so this particular item is a set amount of money for unforeseen expenses and for new students that move into the district that have specific needs and services. This also includes related services for new classes and students as they arise. So with physical education, the athletic director and athletic director, modified assistant football coach, JV flag football, assistant boys soccer coach, and sports athletes team pictures. All right. So for athletic trainer, the district has advertised numerous times, as we know, for an athletic trainer through an RFP process, which has produced no viable companies. Hiring an athletic trainer for the district would assist in the safety and well-being of our student athletes, preventing post-injury incidents, etc. This is a need that we have spoken about, and efforts have been made to no avail, so we are looking for an athletic trainer to get that on as soon as possible. With the modified assistant football coach, the current number of players has increased for the modified football, and this would be for safety reasons. JV flag football, the number of flag football have increased substantially, and the district is looking to add a JV team. Assistant boys soccer coach, the number of soccer has increased substantially, and the district is looking to add an assistant for supervision and safety. And finally, for sports athletic teams, for athletes and teams sport pictures. Okay. Now looking at world language, international baccalaureate, and English language learners, the previous multilingual education coach and director could fall under this, but we wanted to have it separate because of the need for also our monolingual teachers' needs for professional development, not just our English ENL teacher needs in terms of support. So here it has contractual expenses. This is for required annual fees, the fees required for professional development. We have a 5-year site visit coming up next year for international baccalaureate. So this is taking into consideration those expenses. And then also supplies and materials. There needs to be some upgrades in our textbooks for international baccalaureate. And then we move to the schools.
So this next slide combines the early childhood program, Lee F. Jackson, and Highview. Thank you. If you go to the next one. So one slide, all 3 schools. So you'll start seeing a pattern as I go through the schools, because as our enrollment is increasing, we are finding that we are having students that need some additional support. So you can see at the very top there, teacher aides there for ECP. Teachers always and principals would love to have more support inside of the classroom so they can do more individualized, differentiated instruction. As you move down, teacher assistants there for Lee F. Jackson, the same rationale. Historically, years ago, there were more teacher assistants in the classrooms, and their principals are asking for more TAs. Teacher aides for our special education classrooms. We, as students are in IEP meetings and become qualified for services, we have to always be able to have aides available, so there's a need there for some at Jackson, and a bilingual teacher as well for the ENL population that's growing. AIS again at Highview, and also is at Bailey on the next slide, needing more support for teachers to support those students who need that 2nd and 3rd tier of instruction. Furniture is coming up as well from many of the principals, trying to just in that circle of life replenish furniture, and looking more at the furniture that's called flexible instructional seating, furniture that's adaptable to the development of the students. And then, as you see at the very end, just some cafeteria tables, as these things are, as I said, they're going through their duration of life and just probably couldn't be repaired and replaced. If you go to the next one for Bailey and Woodlands Middle High School, the same sort of pattern here. There's a need for a special education teacher at Bailey, and the rationale is there. Again, the projections, and they talked about that in their presentation. AP, Bailey is asking for an assistant principal, someone who can assist in doing assist in some of the administrative tasks that Ms. Rossi is doing. With that increased enrollment, we have more staff, that's more people to evaluate. She could use some support around that. There is a teacher assistance again, that same pattern, to help with the AIS structure and helping students get more support. Furniture, special education, a student management system. Now, that is the system here to help them manage some of the data around that they collect, provide parent notifications. You can see it's a whole litany of things that they're looking for someone to help manage that system. And what I love to see, and was great, when I met with the principals, they are looking for more PD outside of the district. We do have PD on superintendent conference days. We hold our PLCs where we do PD, but they are asking to go out and attend more professional development. And so that was there from the high school. Okay.
So for the business office, which includes buildings and grounds, technology, and security. So Mr. Pugliese would like to continue to expand on his maintenance crew. As you know, we had one groundskeeper and we had one maintenance person. This school year, we added a second maintenance mechanic. He would like to add a third to the buildings, to the maintenance department. And this time, he, as he always does, he looks for a specialty skill, such as electrician, HVAC, masonry, carpentry, etc. That way we could do projects here. Obviously, we couldn't do large projects, but we could do projects here, and we could avoid paying prevailing wages, which schools are required to pay to outside contractors. So that's one of the ways he would love to grow his department. And I'm sure some of you will remember years ago, Woodlands Middle High School, I'm told, had 5 to 6 cleaners here during the daytime. And then during budget times, it was decreased. We have 2 staff members here during the day, and then 1 member that was a night custodian, does a split shift. So we really have 2.5 people here 4 days a week. Because they also work on Saturdays. So on Monday, we only have 2 staff members here. And then if one of those staff members is sick or takes a vacation, then we're down to 1, and the high school is just way too big, so we would like to add an additional cleaner to the daytime staff at Woodlands Middle High School. The maintenance van, we only have 1 maintenance van, which was okay because we had 1 maintenance mechanic. Now that we have 2 mechanics, we would like to get Mr. Pugliese would like to get another maintenance van to add to the fleet so that they could be in different areas of the campus. And our current van is approximately 12 to 14 years old. 2 Kubota utility vehicles we would like to either replace and or add to our Kubotas. The security team has asked for Kubotas also. They share with Buildings and Grounds, and if we could increase that, then the security could help with monitoring our Woodlands Middle High School grounds as well as the football field, and has the availability to get over to LF Jackson. And then Mr. Pugliese would like to increase the amount that is budgeted for paving, because we will have to do the football field driveway once that whole project is complete. The transportation building parking lot needs attention. R.J. Bailey bus lane he would like to have done, and then portions of Pat Capone Road. We know that we can't do the whole road, but if we went from, say, the sign down Wise Way, once, say, water main is done, that's going to have to be redone also. So as far as the technology department is, they would like to add back the television assistant. That has been a position that was here in the past. Reinstating this would serve to involve the students in a program that would engage in this innovation, which is something that we were trying to aim towards. We need new switches and access points. This would be necessary for an upgrade specifically to R.J. Bailey and Woodlands Middle High School, and that will provide support for the additional cameras and future purchases that we will do. If our current access points, I'm told, were to fail, the hardware is outdated and there's no warranty, so that could pose to be a problem, and by doing this, it will help improve our connectivity, okay? This would be done through BOCES. We would get BOCES aid. It would be done on what's called an IPA, and it would be paid for over 5 years. Every year, Ms. Verdina and technology budget for desktops and smart boards, because we've created a rotational cycle so that we're not hit and slammed with it all at once, that every office needs to have a new desktop. So that she wants to include 75 desktop computers and 14 smart boards through her rotational cycle. And then both Mr. Smith and Ms. Verdina commented and made mention that the Innovation Lab at Woodlands Middle High School needs to be upgraded to better accommodate our student learning. Instead of hiring on staff technology specialists, we thought that we could get more for our buck if we got 2 part-time positions from BOCES. As you know, you cannot get a full-time position at BOCES because the whole idea of BOCES is to share with another school district. So therefore, it would be a part-time position. As was Mr. Johnson at one time, with another staff member from BOCES. We had both of them here, and they were part-time. We would like to possibly go back to that method because there are 2 positions currently in the district to serve all of the school buildings, and this would just help with our tickets and providing assistance in the classrooms and to the offices. And we've talked about this in the past, and we had a security coordinator position. Now that we have a dean of students here at Woodlands, we would like to have a security coordinator. We could hire someone in-house, which would probably be more optimal, and then they would manage all the overtime. They would do the uniform cleaning, uniform ordering. They would help coordinate the professional development. They'd be able to monitor the cameras, the Raptor system, the student management system, if we are able to get something like that. That would take off of the administrators, and it would be in one central spot. So this is just a chart that just shows everything that Dr. Iverson, Dr. Njoku, and I just spoke about, and just a summary of everything and where, what department has asked for these. Now, we understand that this, again, as Dr. Iverson said, in an ideal world, this would be great if we could add all of this. Obviously, we know we can't. Dr. Iverson, Dr. Njoku, and I, we're going to go through this and try to deem what we think is most important and go back to the administrators and ask them, out of everything that you've given to us on this list, prioritize it from 1 to whatever, what's most important to you, so a decision can be made. So, revenue and expenditures. You know that our 2 largest revenues for our school district is state aid, and the governor released her numbers after her State of the State address, and it looks like she's proposing that Greenburgh would get a 3.59% increase in state aid overall. Those numbers haven't been analyzed yet. They were just released. I haven't gone over them with Dr. Iverson or Dr. Njoku, but the foundation aid to foundation aid increase was just 2%, okay? Which was a little disappointing. We didn't get as much as I thought that we would get. We were always hoping for more, but again, this is just the governor's proposal. This still has to go through the legislature, and they will negotiate and come up with the finalized state budget. But right now, it looks like a 3.59%. And as far as the tax levy is concerned, we have to strike the right balance between funding the needs of the district and the levy keeping the taxpayer in mind. And just as a reminder, 1% change in our tax levy is $670,398. On the expenditure side, we know that the teacher's retirement system is decreasing slightly from 10.11 to between 9.5% and 10%. We always go for the higher number in their range because that is traditionally where they go. So we're budgeting for 10%. And the average contribution rate for the employee retirement system is increasing from 15.2 to approximately 16.3%. As you know, through negotiations, we have 3 health insurance companies. 1, we have stopped offering, so whatever employees that are still in that, once they retire, that will go away. There's Oxford Plan, we only have 1 employee in that. Emblem Health, we will no longer offer that, and those employees when they retire. So our main health insurance company is Swiss Chips, Southern Westchester. It's a consortium of all the schools. And we already know that that increase is going to be 8.97%, which was just released the beginning of December. Transportation expenses will increase by whatever the CPI is that is set in May. We will not know that till June. So we have to come up with an estimate. This year it was 3.9%, and with it being 2.95, I'm thinking right now about budgeting 4.5%. And then again, our debt service, our first payment for the energy performance contract will be due in 25-26. We will have to make 1 principal and 2 interest payments. And then I'm talking with Mr. Messina from BBS about either doing a bond anticipation note or a bond in 25-26, just trying to figure out what is going to be done and the timing. A bond anticipation note, if this project is going to spread over more than 1 year, you want to do a bond anticipation note because it's just like taking any kind of loan. Once you take the loan, once you take a bond, you got to start paying on it. Why would I start paying on it if no work is being done yet? Because it has to be spread out over multiple years. So if you do a bond anticipation note, you're only going to borrow what you need and pay interest on that. Once the next year comes and you go to start that next project, you won't take a bond anticipation note. You'll now take the bond and roll the band into that. So it's a way to save money for the district that we don't have to budget for a payment for something that we haven't received yet. So I just thought it might be interesting to show you the history of the Consumer Price Index and our tax levies. And as you'll see all the way back to 2019, 2020, I show you what inflation was, what the CPI was that was used for the tax cap calculation, what the tax levy growth factor was, and you'll see just in 2 years it was under 2%, CPI was over 2% in 4 of those years, what our simple majority tax cap was, meaning the most we could go to with a 50% plus 1 positive votes of our budget, what we actually levied, and what the levy-to-levy increase was for those years. So what's next? Our next board meeting is February 4th. We will discuss a rollover budget. I am currently working with my office to calculate salaries and benefits, project those out. We have to take into account retirees. I'm not budgeting any new positions that we spoke about tonight. This is just rolling it over. So I wouldn't want to include a teacher that was at the top step because I know they're retiring, but we'll still budget for that position, but at a salary that we've chosen. So it stays in the budget, so you'll know that it's there. Any known contractual expenses, such as the debt service payments, any tuition payments that we know, those constant payments. I'm also, with Mr. Pugliese, we're speaking with RWE, who is our energy performance consultant. And I said to them, I understand that we will not see 100% of the savings for the energy performance contract until the project is completely done. But you tell us that 90 to 95% of the LED lighting is complete. You've run the gas lines at 2 schools you're currently working on doing at Woodlands Middle High School. I should be able to budget for some savings next year to help offset that bond payment. I did receive some numbers just when we were in executive session, actually, that I have to analyze and go over with him so that I could budget those expenses there. And then whatever our revenue projections will be. We know what state aid is. Amy and I have, as you have known in past weekly updates, we were offered special rates for our investments, and we took money from our general fund and we invested to lock in a higher interest rate with the anticipation that interest rates were going to fall. So we need to calculate those kind of things. I have a spreadsheet about our sales tax and the history of sales tax and what we've collected to try to forecast that. So that will all be in our revenue projections. And then we will be able to show you the tax cap calculation and what your simple majority would be and what that percentage will be now that we have all of our factors. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. No.
Thank you so much, Ms. Raymond. It is late, trustees. The time is now 9:49 p.m. I say that because my trustees have lots of questions. So I'm going to pass the mic. I'm going to pass to a newer trustee first Trustee Sampalayo, do you have any questions? Oh, look at you, that's wonderful. Trustee Mans, do you have some questions? Yes, okay. I'm gonna pass.
All right, Ms. Raymond, just for informational purposes, how much would the first payment be for the energy performance contract?
$1.9 million.
Okay. And then this one's probably for Dr. Njuku, just kind of going back to the beginning. Give me 1 second.
Do you want me to go to a certain page?
Yeah, it was just, again, just kind of some numbers. Okay. For the percentage of children in the district that have the ELL, what percentage is it overall of students that would have that?
You got to come up here.
It's the total number of students are 232, so I think it's about like 10% at this point, but I will double check and provide that for you.
Okay.
So in speaking for that particular position, it's not just, it's to meet the increased needs, not just for the students, but of the educators as well, and also the understanding that we're moving into a dual language program. So just having those expertise in-house is needed as part of the needs assessment.
That's good. Oh, wait, just one more. And then in terms of, you mentioned the special education coach. Again, just trying to get an idea of how many students across the district, qualify for that. Like, what would be that percentage as well?
Well, I would have to get that from my team regarding that, yeah. But I can get that to you in the packet for Friday.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just keeping in line with that special education question, I also had written that down. So I feel like on the sheet, I can't find it quick enough, but there was special education coach.
Correct.
Then there was a special education teacher, behavioral specialist.
Mhm.
Is that a classroom position?
That would be the district-wide, a second BCBA, a second behavioral specialist.
The teacher would be.
Correct.
So
they
because
would
when
be
when you were talking about the special ed coach in my head, I said I wrote down BCBA with a question mark, but then I saw
Two
the
different.
teacher would be the BCBA position.
So BCBA, it's the tenure track. It's a special education teacher. The title within the district is a behavior specialist, board certified behavior specialist teacher. Mhm. So this is two different requests.
So
under
that
this.
So the special education teacher, and forgive me if I'm confusing because it's late, but the special education teacher would go district-wide and help everyone working with their special education students on how to properly manage behaviors, do interventions for behaviors, things like that.
So the same, yes, so the same position description for the recently hired behavior analyst that was board approved last week would be supporting this role, so that right now we have our vendors supporting that.
Right.
So we're trying to have it in-house.
A dedicated teacher.
Yes, correct.
So
And then the
what would
coach
the
is
coach do that's different?
So the coach is different. So with this particular needs, it's stating here that the coach, similar to our other coaches within the district, this request is saying that there is a need for supports with all of the teachers regarding meeting the needs of special education students.
Needs that are different than behavior.
Different.
Okay.
So it's more focusing on
Instruction and other
Right.
interventions, not
Correct.
necessarily
Mhm.
behavior. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Obviously, I know there's a lot of details still to come, and I know I'll have way more questions when there's numbers filled into the wish list. This is just a request that when it being fiscally minded and environmentally minded, when we get the next presentation, can we please get it in black and white and front and back copied and 2 slides per page? I'm just being mindful of like on my copy, some of the ink is running out, so it's a different color. Like, just, if we could just trim that up a little bit, I feel like it would make things a lot more affordable in that way.
hear you, and we certainly can do that. I'm not sure you'll be able to read it.
I think with the type size that it's at, 2 slides per page, not that one, but.
But we can definitely accommodate.
I'm just saying that there is, in my opinion, a significant amount of waste that we're using for ink and for paper that even if it's front and back of black and white would do a lot of good and save a lot of trees and save a lot of money on ink.
Right.
Thank you for the presentation. It was very helpful. Regarding the wish list, did I hear that it's at wish list right now and the prioritization hasn't not happened?
This is
yet?
just a general, they did, at each department, each school did a needs assessment, what they would need to fill the gaps that they find, and then as Ms. Raymond stated, they will be prioritizing, we will be reviewing as a team to be able to think about the implications, all the factors that I think you all are thinking about right now to prioritize.
And it was put in this kind of presentation because if you remember last year, Trustee Mayers, you had asked, well, what is everybody asking for? Not just what has Dr. Iverson picked from the list. So we thought, we'll show you everything that they're asking for. And then we'll ask them to prioritize, as Dr. Njoku said, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Are you able to speak to any of the wish list items? I have just curiosity questions, and if you can't, you
Right.
could just say so.
Right,
Is
and
that fair?
having the questions is good for us, so yes, please.
So my first question is regarding the student management system at Woodlands Middle High School. Is that a software system?
Yes.
And does the thought include that that has a person that comes with it to manage that software? What is, can you tell us?
When the Dean of Students came to Woodlands Middle High School, he brought this to us as a possibility that he would like to see a student management system where every student, specifically in the high school, to start off with, would have an ID. They would be able to swipe in. They wouldn't have to stand at the Raptor machine and punch their, whatever they punch in, their name and stuff and get a thing. This ID that they'll get, they'll just scan it. It'll record their time, do whatever it needs to do. They'll go on. It'll work in the library. It'll work in the cafeteria. He mentioned a whole bunch of other things. Maybe hall passes, those kind of things. So they will actually be able to track where students are. Then the thought was that once it was put into place at Woodlands Middle High School, we would expand it to all of Bailey or part of Bailey so that they would start getting used to it so when they came to Woodlands Middle High School.
Thank you. Again, same question regarding the Innovation Lab upgrades. Are there any rough ideas of what that potentially means?
You want to talk to that? So they say that our innovation lab needs upgrades. We need more computer spots, more computer stations. So where we have the work session, they want to have that redone. And that back room where all the computers are so that it's better seating for students, more computers.
And just thinking about makerspace, and I was told previously it was different. It looked different, and it's just bringing back innovation, a place where students can actually tinker.
And last but not least at all, professional development. I love this idea, and I saw a wonderful list of professional development that has been incorporated in the last year here on site. This is a comment more than a question. I'd like to see attendance improved at the professional developments that are held already on site. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Long. Trustee Valiant, then Warner.
Just to follow on what Trustee Long was discussing, last year I think we heard that our BOCES portion of the budget increased because we were doing a lot of our professional development through BOCES and thereby getting some sort of cost sharing or reduction, which ended up being a net reduction in price to us. So just as a point of information, whether for the rollover presentation or the one after that, if we can get an understanding of what PD was contracted for last year through BOCES, and if these wish list increases in the PDs, I think there were a couple of them, that's increases, that's not the total. So I want to get an understanding of what we did last year, what we may not need anymore from last year.
When you say last year, you mean 23, 24, or 24, 25?
Excuse me, 24, 25 for the current budget year. Apologies. In case there's some opportunity for replacement of trainings instead of full-on increases. The other just data that I think we need, and I'm just going to beat the dead horse here. I think we really need information on how many classrooms, how many students in each grade level, how many classrooms we need, and for the classification of those classrooms. For example, in grade 1, how many general ed classrooms do we need? How many special ed classrooms do we need? Are those special ed classrooms 8-to-1 or 12-to-1? We need to know our spacing. So if we could have that information for the next budget presentation, I think that falls into with our staffing needs overall.
So we are working on that, Trustee Ballin. We have a meeting with the principals tomorrow, and they are bringing their numbers. We've also gotten it from our data, our portal, and we're just trying to make sure those numbers are accurate. So we are working on that. Thank you for that.
Okay, you covered the biggest question I had. Great. So the multilingual education coach, that's an additional position. Does that assume that there's no change in the duties of the administrators that we have in place now?
Yes.
Okay. The maintenance mechanic, is that position revenue neutral, i.e., are we going to save enough on contracts to where we'll pay for the person's salary?
We would hope so. It would depend on what trade Mr. Pugliese goes for first, what he would like to see. Where are we spending a good portion of our money? I would, or just off the top of my head, it would be electrician or HVAC. I would think that he would look for a person with that skill, because our electrical contractors are here all the time. So again, if we can do a good portion of the work here, we should be able to see a savings in that contractual item that we could use for that salary.
Okay.
Yes.
We were at one time carrying the R.J. Bailey AP on our budget. Is there any money still sitting there that we haven't used, or is it completely as if we're, no, okay. And then, how do you balance the funds from school to school? So you've got this pot of money. You'll figure out how big, you got your rollover budget. You figure out how big you have the distance between their, your rollover budget and the tax cap, right? Because we're going to go for the tax cap, and then you'll split that up. Are there requirements that the same amount of money be spent at one school versus the other, or are you free to allocate?
No, that's up to Dr. Iverson and what, as she spoke in the beginning, the vision, what she thinks is most important and where a position would be most needed or would benefit the most. So there could be a school that doesn't get, one might get more than others.
Okay. Thanks.
So looking at through a lens of equity, just giving the buildings what they need. And so some buildings may get more based on the needs, some of the numbers, once we see the sections, all of that will motivate our decision around where that priority list is and who gets what. And the principals do understand that.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Long had one more question.
I'll distract for a moment. I'm sorry, one more question. As I'm thinking about programs, and again, the wish list, I attended a recent WISE committee meeting, the program, and I understand the number of students has doubled this year from last year, and just wondering if there has been or will be any discussion of a budget line for the WISE program being on the wish list.
We're going to discuss it. Thank you for that. We can look at that.
All right, and for me, I just wanted to go back to the maintenance worker. So it stated that there's an increase in demands for our facilities. Is that because our buildings are a little outdated? That's why there's been an increase with the electrical and all those? Okay, got that. All right. And then just going back to the Rockefeller Institute. So the recommendations, do you know when they'll be coming out with that? I haven't been following, but just kind of.
So we have the recommendations,
yeah,
but that's it. Nothing's been done with them at the state level, so we're waiting on that to be in. We're waiting on direction from the legislator and from the commissioner, but the recommendations are out, yes.
Okay, so nothing probably would be implemented.
Not this budget cycle, no.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's very late. I am exhausted, but I do want to hit some of these questions that I have. I hope I'm coherent in explaining them at this time. So one of the things I did want to ask the elementary, early childhood, Leaf Jackson, Highview bunch of need assessments. I didn't see in here any funding for trips. Is that something that, oh, okay, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Maris, for that question. Yes, we've already talked about it, and a line has been added or will be added in every principal's budget for field trips.
Okay, great. The maintenance van you talked about, I heard you explain some of that, Ms. Raymond, but is that, like, what exactly do they do with a maintenance van?
Well, they use the maintenance van and they transport their tools.
Oh.
They transport materials.
Okay. And the two Kubota utility vehicles, it falls under buildings and grounds, but security and athletics uses them as well. How
Correct.
do you guys decide on the shared supplies or things? How do you decide like what line that falls under? Like it comes
The Kubotas will go under maintenance.
Even though?
Yeah, because they're housed at Woodlands Middle High School, and if security needs it, if Mr. McCoy needs it, he just radios Dennis or Anthony or Dave and says, I need a Kubota, can I use the one that's out back?
Okay.
And they just use what we have.
And I'm going to try really hard to say this the right way. I'm a little concerned about, you know, the future of education and just some changes that are, it looks like more immediately going to be taking place. And being that our district has, you know, it was founded in the spirit of equity. I'm sorry if this is loud on the mic. Moving on my papers. I'm trying to find the paper where I took the notes. But being that it was founded in the spirit of equity, like I want to definitely make sure we try to keep an equity lens here. We have a large amount of students that qualify as Title I or low income. We have students of color. We also have L student, English language learners. And I'm not an educator, but I think traditionally those populations don't always, I want to say, how to say, excel in the traditional form of like learning, and that sometimes other things such as the arts and athletics help to support those students through their traditional educational journey. And I'm just wondering if anything in here is for the arts, whether it's performing arts or creative performing arts or display arts. Oh, I forgot the two terms. I'm sorry, it's late, I'm tired. Visual, thank you. Visual or performing arts. Also for athletic scholarships, I myself have an athlete, as well as some of the other trustees, and I'm wondering, financially, parents with financial means are able to support their children's athletic education, but I'm wondering if, because some districts do support students with getting scholarships, either through the arts or through athletics, and if there's any planning for that sort of thing. How do we, especially for equity, look at, I think our guidance department does a really good job of sending out scholarships and talking to students about pathways to get in, but things like the arts, like music arts and visual arts and athletics are kind of specialized areas in which scholarships can be had for kids to go on to higher education. We're really invested in BOCES and in vocational ways of pathways after graduation, but what about supporting the students who aren't necessarily getting all A's or a full IB student, but that may be gifted either in the arts or athletics? Is there anything that you guys talked about with the admin, looking at those sort of supports?
No, just to answer your question in terms of conversation, that always comes up in conversation, because doing a needs assessment, you clearly identify what are the needs, what are some of the gaps. In generating this particular, I think, although this is a wish list, I think there was some conservativeness also, there was some consideration, so you understand the thinking. So the conversation happens, but then even in presenting the wish list, we're also at the same time trying to be realistic and understanding, and then thinking about what are things that we could potentially work with our current structure, how can we probably repurpose in a way. These are conversations that we have, and what things do we have to consider for maybe consideration for future years. So even though it is a wish list, it's also with an understanding.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Super late, 10, 11 p.m., but I'm gonna ask everyone to clap because it's a wonderful wish list presentation. Thank you. We're gonna return, I think, to our seats now to continue the rest of the meeting. Thank you. Are we ready to go? Yeah? Yes? Okay, that's all right. We're going to move forward. The next item on our agenda is a policy presentation. Do you need a minute, Trustee Valen? We can come back. Okay.
Sorry.
So this is the presentation. Okay. There's one policy being presented to the public tonight. It will be, it is policy 3220, the use of assistance animals. This policy will be considered for board adoption at the February 25th, 2025 regular meeting. Copies of this policy are available in the district clerk's office, at the school building, and district website, as well as attached to this agenda. All comments concerning this policy should be submitted in writing to the Board of Education at board@greenburghcsd.org. Board members, we did review this policy at a prior meeting, so I don't know if, I haven't seen any comments or questions, so it's going to be there for a month. We can chat and move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Valen. Next item on the agenda are committee and liaison reports. Are there any committee or liaison reports? Trustee Jacobson.
Do you have a preference of what we start with? Do you have a preference on?
We're going to do committees.
Committees, okay. So committee-wise, it's actually very quick. We had to cancel our last tech committee meeting, and so we just bumped our agenda to the next meeting, and then there also have been some additions over the course of that period of time. And so the next meeting is February 6th from 1 to 3 at Woodlands, and I'm not sure of the room yet.
Okay, any questions, Trustee Valen?
Nope, no questions.
Do you have a committee report?
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Valen?
Sorry, I don't have a report. I have an announcement that the Finance Committee meeting was also rescheduled. It is next week, January 30th. Wait, is that next week? It's January 30th, whatever week it is, at 10 o'clock in the morning. Room will be announced on the public posting on the website, but it will be somewhere at Woodlands. So that's January 30th at 10 a.m. Also, governance and policy, if you give me 2 seconds, is next Monday, I believe, January 27th at 7 p.m. I don't remember the room right now, but it will be on the district calendar as far as which room. I also need to have a conversation with Ms. Raymond to see if we've been in touch with our internal auditors, because we are anticipating, we don't have scheduled yet, but we are anticipating an audit committee meeting within the next 2 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Valen. I'll just let everyone know our safety and security meeting will be held on Monday, February 3rd at 6:30 p.m. We're usually in the Innovation Lab. All are welcome. Trustee Warner?
Okay. There are various announcements. Let's see. The Facilities Committee will be meeting in the Innovation Lab February 13th at 6:30 p.m. That's at Woodlands Innovation Lab. There'll be a ribbon cutting ceremony tomorrow night here in this beautiful auditorium to dedicate the fact that we've renovated it. So that's prior to the R.J. Bailey Winter Concert. So be sure to be here at 6:30 p.m. The facilities commit, the last facilities committee meeting we had, Trustee Mayers requested that I try and keep the report to about 2 minutes, which is impossible. So I'm not going to give my report. I will send it to you in an email, and I will simply concentrate on our request. That is the recommendation. And I sent you guys an email with various attachments that allowed you to look at the, at the, what the recommendation was and what it's all about, and I will simply go over it. I'm handing out a packet, so we've got the diagram that you've seen before several times, but at this point, that shows you the water main project We just had a public vote to release capital reserve funds to upgrade all the science labs and upgrade some of the water mains at Woodlands. The results were 319 yes and 34 no. So we're good for the portion of the water main that we agreed to fund, and we're good for all the science labs, okay? So far, so good. Now, you remember we decided we would upgrade all the science labs, and we would upgrade some of the water mains, and then when we got more money, we would come back and finish that off, whatever that meant, okay? The remainder of the water main project has to be addressed once we have the necessary funds. Per Lisa Raymond, we now have $1.6 million in a reimbursement from our Phase 1 ventilation project. You may remember that was federal funds, the American Rescue Plan, right? We made ventilation better in all our schools, and the federal government finally cut their check. So now we have $1.6 million that we didn't have before. So now we have the funds, okay? So there are two methods of dealing with this. One is to just do the reduced level of the water main project that we had come up with from the fire department, and the other is to do the entire project. And we went over in detail whether we should do the whole project that we wanted to do from the beginning, or only part of it.
So Trustee Warner, can you tell us on the, I'm just going to move you along a little bit, on the diagram here, where we already funded through the proposition, where we talked about adding the extra, and then the third thing is where additional now wants to be added, please.
All right. The part we've already done is we've already funded is the yellow, the green that goes around behind Woodlands, and the purple that goes in front of Woodlands. All right? The option that costs the least amount of money is the extension, the blue and the red, which takes us up to the mansion. And therefore, the mansion will be, if we plan to eventually reoccupy it, you'll have decent fire protection there. The black area, that is the remaining part of the diagram that's not filled in with any colored lines, that was in the original project. And it was in the original project because it provides you with two sources of water. That is, one source comes from West Hartsdale Avenue that does all this, and another source comes from the Pinewood side. And so if anything happens and they do road work on West Hartsdale Avenue, and if you've driven along it, they do things from time to time, we won't have any water during the period of time that they're running that. And so when you design modern systems, you try and have two sources of water. You put everything inside of a big loop. And so from the Pinewood side,
I think I know which side you want. So I think the last conversation with the Finance and Facilities Committee was to do the blue and the red, correct? Because the clear white part was the original project that was discussed way before, correct?
the Facilities Committee recommended that we go with the full boat.
The blue and the red.
The blue and the red and the black.
That's what your Facilities Committee decided the other night?
Correct.
Okay, so tonight you want us to decide what?
Whether the board, this is a recommendation from the Facilities Committee.
Yes.
So what does the board think? Should we go with the blue and the red only, or should we go with the blue and the red and the black, the full project?
Is there an option not to do anything? Is that a third option?
The board kind of agreed that when we got money, we would fund it.
So there's three things we'll be voting on. Whether we're not doing anything,
Okay.
whether we're doing red and black, or whether we're doing red, black, and clear white. I don't know what to call it. right? So
RB.
1, 2, or 3. So trustees, does
Oh.
anyone have any questions? Yes, trustee Long.
Okay. Okay.
Trustee Long, what's your question?
I have many,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the best way to approach this is in the manner of a former board member, and I hope she doesn't mind I steal her method, but I have some wonderings.
Okay.
My wonderings are $1.6 million. This money's been spent already, so this is just refilling the coffers. $1.6 million discussed on how to use it by one committee focused on one element of our district. This discussion was 2 business days ago, so I suspect it's not included in our budget presentation. Or has any thought of how that $1.6 million been considered in the budget presentation in any other manner? My wonderings are, does the tech committee have wishes for $1.6 million? The safety committee, the education committee, the wellness committee would love a chef and making things in schools. My wonderings also include how the heck a conversation from 2 business days ago is showing up as a potential vote among board members when it's not on the agenda and it's skipped to the front of the line and hasn't been addressed by the administration, and we are smack in the middle of conversations about how to build the budget.
Okay, can I? Okay. In terms of the wonderings, you can spend the money on things that are one-time needs, okay? So if you're thinking of hiring someone, you would tend not to use this money for that because it won't be here next year, okay? Having said that, any one-time thing that you think that you want to spend money on, you can spend money on. The reason that it is bumped to the front of the line was that the committee believed when they allowed the last set of options we voted on, that we would, as soon as we got the money, take care of the remainder of the water main project. Okay? So to their minds and to my mind, this is something that we are at the front of the queue. Okay? Now, you may decide that you want to hold things in reserve and do something else with the money, in which case you can vote as you wish. That's pretty much where I'm at.
Just for a point of clarity, any topic, regardless of whether it's on the agenda or not, can end up in a board vote simply by a trustee making a motion. The Facilities Committee is making a recommendation to the board for a vote, correct?
It doesn't have to happen tonight.
Doesn't have to happen, but that's your recommendation.
Correct.
Okay. So any other questions from trustees? Oh, and I just want to clarify, Trustee Long, Ms. Raymond was in the meeting for the Facilities Committee and did chime in. I think I was annoyingly asking them, I want to hear from administration. Do you remember in that meeting? Oh, I didn't ask you?
I asked what all the
Oh, no,
other
Mr. Pugliese,
competing-
not you. I'm sorry. It's late. I asked repetitively what Mr. Pugliese thought and what his input was. So he's an administrator, but no, not central office. Yes, Trustee Jacobson.
I know you said this doesn't have to be decided tonight. Is there a particular pro or con about having it happen tonight versus waiting till we have more numbers with the budget proposal? I think it's a fair point that if we're talking a sizable amount of money, that it's in context with the rest of our needs.
You're asking Trustee Warner or Ms. Raymond?
Okay.
I don't know, actually. Whoever has the answer.
Whoever has the answer,
of
their
like
pro and con.
what are the pros and cons of
Right.
doing it right now versus waiting till we have larger context.
Okay. So I would guess what we felt was necessary was that we wanted to get our thing in place in case the Education Committee and the other committees all came in and had their wish and their wish list. We didn't have any, right? Okay, so it's out here. Okay, yes, we're in somewhat of a competitive situation, and we did list a number of other possible projects, but we didn't have numbers for them yet. So let me ask you, we've got this money and it's not in the next year's budget, it's in this year's budget. So, gosh, Lisa, what?
Ms. Raymond, you're talking to Ms. Raymond?
Ms. Raymond.
Okay, yes, sorry.
Gosh, Miss Raymond. What do you need to know, and by when do you need to know it?
So the money is in the capital fund, okay? So if you're going to use it for anything, like we did 4 years ago, we'd have to bring it back to the general fund, and it has to be reallocated. I can't tell you, we haven't presented a budget to you yet to see where that's going to land with the tax cap, and or if anything on the wish list will be able to be added. So I don't really have an answer.
So you guys didn't have, it wasn't worked into this present, this level of the budget presentation just yet?
No, and if it were, it would be, like Trustee Warner said, it would be the recommendation, it would have to be for one-time hits. So for example, the innovation lab renovation, the switches that we talked about for technology, it wouldn't be positions because that would have to be sustained. Paving, that kind of thing, it could be one-time hits. It should be used for, otherwise you got to build it into your budget.
Got it. Trustee Valen?
Just a couple things. I'd like to flesh out Trustee Warner's answer, first of all, without discussing the vote per se. As far as the timing of the decision, if the board were to move forward with using this money with amplifying or completing the full water project, we did kind of circle around this when we voted on this in, I want to say, November, to put the resolution on for January vote. But if the board did want to move forward with that sooner rather than later, the benefit of having that decision now at the front of the budget process as opposed to May is because now that the resolution put to the voters passed, when they go for RFP, go for bid for the part of the water project that was approved by the voters, if the board wanted to move forward with a second part, either Part B or Part B and Part C together, it would be part of one bid, and you could possibly get economies of scale as part of that bid process. So that's, I just wanted to flesh out Trustee Warner's answer as far as the timing, if there's any benefits to discussing it sooner rather than later. Now, whether that's February 4th or March 15th, I don't know. There is a timeline that they kind of outlined to us. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I wanted to flesh that. I also wanted to say that this was briefly discussed in the last Finance Committee as far as having received the 1.6 reimbursement of the federal COVID funds for Phase 1 project. It had just been received, I believe, into the bank account when we had our last Finance Committee meeting, and we very briefly discussed the fact that, should it be used, should it remain in the capital fund and be used for current year projects, or should it be moved per the already approved by voters resolution to the capital reserve funds, again, to replenish the capital reserve funds to go towards we have at least 3 major projects in the future that we keep discussing. I'll name them now. You know, we need to reopen the mansion at some point. We discuss adding on to Leaf Jackson to have more ECP spaces there. And we discuss, oh my gosh, what's the third one? It's so embarrassing, it's late. There were 3 major projects, and those were 2 of the 3. I'm blanking on the other one right now.
Shells?
Thank you. The building shells, which is basically making the pointing, the windows on all of the buildings to ensure the buildings are watertight, which is approximately $20 million. So that was the extent of that discussion, but I wanted to say that, so that piece of knowledge is with all of us right now.
And there's one more thing I need to add in. It's the $1.6 million is the amount we have to spend. So the expensive option is $1.4 million. The inexpensive option that just gets you to the mansion is $600,000. Okay, so you're going to come out with some amount of money left over. All right, regardless, the question, it's a delta of $800,000.
I would say that assumes that we stay within the cost of the project, which doesn't happen all the time. And having a little safety, especially with this one.
Ms. Raymond.
So, piggybacking off of Trustee Valen, they want to put it out for RFP, and these other legs or segments would be add alternates to that RFP, or I'm sorry, to that bid. It won't be an RFP, it would be a bid. So the blue, the red, and the black could be alternate B, alternate C, alternate D, that you can either accept or reject. But you have to remember, when you put a bid out, you have to accept within 45 days or it's null and void. So that brings you closer also to the budget. If you were just to do, just throwing it out there, if you were just to do the blue and the red, say, and you had that excess money and you brought it back to go back to the capital fund, you could help fund the capital interfund transfer for items that we will present in the budget that we would like to see get done in the schools, other things to get done instead of building that into the budget.
Trustee Valen. So I'm not going to go into all my thought process right now. I'll do that when we're actually having a decision. But I do want to say that we got to, for all the horrible things that came out of COVID, one good thing happened, and that was some of the federal funding that enabled us to catch up and do a lot of the work on our buildings that's been sorely needed, while keeping the year-to-year budget for the community as low as possible and even below the maximum that we could have increased. So I'd like to acknowledge that those increases, those one-time hits, are not going to be coming very often now. They're coming far and few and far between. So while administration might want to take this one-time money and go towards what I'll call short-term or smaller yet costly projects, I'm going to encourage us to consider building some of that work into our budget process, as opposed to using money that we're trying to save for large projects, so that when we do go for a bond in the medium to long-term future, that the bond request will always be as low as possible, because there's so many unknowns right now. I won't go into everything else, but that's my plea when you come into us on February 4th. I know you're going to come with the baseline, but I just want to look at how to do that within the budget.
Thank you, Trustee Valen. Trustee Jacobson?
I appreciate the information about the RFP and what that could look like that might skew things and potentially make this cost less. I think everyone brought up some good points. I think I was the lone vote of wanting the water main project to be finished first, because I think it's a safety issue, and I think it's a not pretty safety issue, and I think it's one of those things that is hard to do and execute because you don't see it, you might never need it, and it's not a flashy thing like the science labs that you can kind of say, look at what we have. But I think all of these other things that we're talking about, the shells, the mansion, all of these things require some protection and require some safety long-term. And I think having the water, so I think at this point, like having the water main project secures the work that is already on the agenda to happen so that we're not doing something, having a disaster, and having no way to fix the problem.
Trustee Jacobson, are you making a, not motion, but an urging to make a decision sooner than later?
I think that sounds wise based on our current circumstances.
Okay. Any other trustees want to give any input? Does anybody feel comfortable voting on this tonight? Are you asking for a decision tonight?
I would ask if people are not comfortable, what they would like to see before they would feel comfortable making a vote.
Is anyone uncomfortable making a decision tonight? The 3 points would be whether to do nothing with the water main, whether to do the water main to the extension of red and blue for $600,000, or doing all of the water main for $1.4 million. Trustee Mance.
Yeah, thank you. Can you just refresh my memory? What was Mr. Puglisi's recommendation again, or do we remember?
I was in the meeting. I thought it was Ms. Raymond, but it was Mr. Puglisi.
He looked at us and he said, there's a lot of different pipes that go to one entrance of Pinewood. And so that was, so that he said something, okay, so the gas line's going through the Pinewood entrance and the water line's going through the Pinewood entrance, and it's like, I think he was thinking about, having to pave it and the manhole cover that's bubbling, and so that was, that he was thinking about how to do it. Okay.
I got it. Thank you.
So is any trustee uncomfortable with making this decision tonight? Speak up now, or I'm going to start polling everybody. No. Okay. Trustee Sampalayo, where are you with this? You are first.
My vote is option 2.
That's the red and blue for $600,000. Trustee Jacobson?
Wait a minute, sorry.
Yes.
I'm just,
No.
because I'm looking at,
No, option 1 is.
Okay, well, excuse me. I'm moving gradually from 0 to 600 to 1.4. That's how I was doing it. You're looking
Yeah.
at Trustee Warner's paper. I will turn to Trustee Warner's paper. Okay. You don't even have an option 3, Trustee Warner. So I'm going to create
You
an
mean
option 3.
0, or, okay.
Option 3 is do nothing. Okay. So you're saying option 2, which is all 3 for 1.4. Got it. Okay, Trustee Jacobson.
Option 2, the whole thing.
1.4. Trustee Valen.
option 1, protect the mansion.
Trustee, okay, Trustee Mans.
Option 2. This has been on the agenda for a long time, right? So I feel like just bring it on home and complete it.
Trustee Along.
Option 1 is the only one that we talked about, the addition of the red and the blue with an additional $800,000. I feel that the idea of going through all of it is, again, kind of catching us all and trying to advance an agenda. There's questions about the whole back end of that, and if it actually will work. The only thing I remember talking about is the red and blue sections being added on. As soon as we had funds available, that would be all I would support.
Okay, and Trustee Warner?
All.
And I'm at option 1, so we're at 3-4 vote. And the 4 is to spend the $1.4 million on completing the entire water main project. I just want to keep in mind, trustees, we have no idea. It's not a vote, that's a consensus, actually, because we'll need an actual motion, just for clarity. Thank you. Trustees, just, so we will come back to actually voting on this, but just keep in mind, even what you admitted that Mr. Puglisi said, there's all sorts of things meeting at the Pinewood Road, and this may go way over 1.4 million. So, okay. Trustee Mans?
In the event it goes over, do we have funds reserved for things like that?
Oh, Ms. Raymond will have to transfer stuff, and we'll have to, depends on how much it goes over, I guess, right? Trustee Valen?
I'd just like to point out, someone else can interrupt me if they have more knowledge, but once the bids are in, that's the price. There's no overages unless the scope of the project changes.
And if it goes over the amount that's authorized, the bid fails.
Well, the reason why I brought that up is because if we run into some sort of issue when they're digging, things always, I mean, I don't understand what you mean, that is the price. If there's an issue that comes up, I mean, Ms. Raymond, I guess, you know, facilities is under you. They can come back and tell us that they ran into some.
That happened, yeah.
That did happen, yeah. So I don't know why you're saying.
This was originally an $800,000 project.
This was originally at $800,000, and now we're talking about $1.4 million.
Correct. Before they did all the testing.
Right.
That
And then when they're
resulted-
actually in the ground and digging up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so, all right, just, all right.
Which was prior to the bid process.
Okay. Did you want to add more to it?
No.
So we'll have a resolution coming soon. Yes, Trustee Long?
I did want to add that 1.4 is on top of the 800,000 that was already approved. So it's really more than 2 million, this project. And we just reduced our reserves in order to do the science labs on top of a portion of this. So I'd be careful talking about the extra money if we go over.
So again, this is a consensus. It's 3-4 right now. We will get more info. We will have a resolution. We will have an official vote. Yeah, let's move on. Is there another committee that has any other reports? Yes, Trustee Long?
I'll keep mine short. The Wellness Committee met last week, and I do not have all my notes with me, but we have 2 surveys that we are looking forward to passing on to the administration at a meeting this week, Thursday. One which will be a food survey that should be that can be made available to all the public and potentially distributed to students to get feedback on the status of our food, and this would be in compliance with our contract. And the second survey is a survey from the committee that is aimed at collecting student feedback on their wellness needs and desires. So we hope to have that survey passed on to the administration at the end of our Thursday meeting, which is this week, Thursday at 12:30 at Woodlands, and I do not know the room yet, but.
Awesome, thank you. Trustee Long, I know when we were switching food service vendors, there was some taste testing going on. Is that, I heard tonight Ms. Rossi say that her and the administration here and the students were gonna go in. But does your committee go back around now that they've been here, they've been working, and do some taste testing?
The committee has not. We're hoping to get direct feedback from the students and anyone else that participates in the food service. I have heard that there are staff also enjoying the food, which I think is new. But with the survey, we hope to get feedback not only from students, but this survey should be available for parents that hear from their students also.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Valen?
Trustee Along, I know your committee was reviewing a couple of the policies, and I think one of them is up for approval tonight, 7420. Are you going to request that that be pulled from approval tonight, or will it move forward just so we can plan our next steps? Or do you have any feedback for us to amend that policy tonight?
The 7420 is the sports and athletic program.
Yes.
The committee is reviewing it. If you don't mind moving it out to the next meeting for approval, that would be great, but we don't at this time have any feedback from the committee. I did ask for it by today, but if we could give them.
Ms. Trustee, President Mayers or Ms. Kraus, is it possible to amend the resolution on this meeting to remove policy 7420 when we get to that as a voting item?
You can remove it, right? Table it?
Just the one policy out of the 4 that are presented for approval tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Makes the motion, say with the exception of
Right.
7420.
Okay.
That will be carried over to the next meeting.
That sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
And any other committees? Hearing none, we'll move on to ex officio student report is tabled. Our student members are not here tonight. Then we have what? Oh, shoot, thank you, sorry. We'll table that, but we're gonna go back to one and hear liaison reports. Is there a report from ECP?
Yes, in the interest of time, I just want to highlight that on January the 16th, ECP had the pre-K registration. It was successful. Altogether, 98 applications were submitted. And there could be a possibility or some discussions about another classroom needed at Highview, but stay tuned per Principal Will Washington.
Lots of kids, this is a good thing. It's a good problem to have. Leaf Jackson.
Well, back in December, we had an IB sharing assembly that had an inclusion class that participated in the musical program. So that's a first. I don't know if it's been done for a number of years, but I'm really thrilled to see it. The ECP LFJ Winter Family Fun event is on January 24th at 6 p.m.
Wonderful. And Highview?
That would be me. So the Highview second and third graders had Hour of Code these past 2 weeks. There was an orientation for the current first graders, future second graders. The next parent coffee is listed in the calendar as this week, but it is on the 30th. And Mr. Mastrangelo will send out a link for the Zoom meeting by Tuesday the 28th. If anybody is interested in signing up for the United Way After School program, which runs until May 15th, please contact the school to sign up. They ask that you please, everybody, visit the Lost and Found, because I'm sure there's lots of good stuff in there. World Read Aloud Day is February 5th, so please sign up if you would like to be a reader on that day. This Friday, the 24th, is Spirit Day, and you need to wear Highview clothing if you're going to participate. And there is also going to be a school store on that day. And for Martin Luther King Day, students were encouraged to perform at least one act of kindness in honor of Dr. King. And the next Highview PTA meeting is Saturday, February 1st at 11 a.m.
Thank you. R.J. Bailey.
Well, obviously, we had a great presentation tonight, but just to piggyback on some of that, there was a math night here as well. It went well, but the turnout was small. I think there's a lot of events happening right now, which might interfere with attendance. Tomorrow, again, the ribbon cutting ceremony starts at 6:30, followed by the winter concert. And at the end of the week, there will be Hour of Code here at Bailey, and we are also looking for volunteers of World Read Aloud Day on the 5th.
Thank you. I can just give some feedback because I missed that math night. I think it was the first week back from the vacation, which is usually for parents pretty crazy. I was like trying to get back into this activity and that activity, and people are returning to work. So as a parent, I know, and I spoke to another parent, and I was like, oh shoot, we missed it. We really wanted to go. So maybe that was it, because it was like just returning from break. I don't know. But okay, the first full week back. Who did I? Oh, yes, Trustee Long.
May I ask a question about, it's actually about World Read Aloud Day, and I'll just be forthright. I hit submit before I wrote down the hours, and there's no receipt comes through. So I'm wondering if I did send a note to the person listed on the bottom of the sheet, and I did not check my emails today to see if that can be adjusted. But the other question I had, and that I did get from the community, is about the books themselves. Are the readers to bring books in, or are we going to be given books?
There will be books in the buildings for you to select from.
Are people allowed to bring books in, or no? Are we asking people to use the books that are in the building?
Use the books that are provided.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there a liaison at Woodlands Middle High School? Trustee Valen?
It's a little bit lengthier than the others. I apologize, but I did not do other reports. Okay, I haven't given a report in a while, so recent seniors of the week are Daehan Chung, Nicholas Hannigan, Abigail Stewart, Cristobal Aratia, and Brandon Gomez. There were staff shout-outs to Mr. Vaccaro, Mr. Hill, Dr. Fritz, Ms. Vasilevsky, Mr. Simmons, Ms. Stiletto, Ms. LeBlanc, Mr. Vaccaro already said, Ms. Belfiore, Ms. Chavez, Ms. Newby, Mr. Rinaldi, Ms. Shabazz, Mr. Rounds, and Mr. Nichols. The artist of the month was Corinne Perrone in the 11th grade, who thrives in moments of quiet contemplation, allowing her creativity to unfold slowly and deliberately. With meticulous attention to detail, she especially enjoys working with clay. The Martin Luther King Legacy Youth Award winner for Social Action Award, Feeding Westchester champion, was Kal-El Harris. I'm going to go through the WISE kickoff is February 7th at about 12 noon. Please email wiseprogram@greenburghcsd.org for more information on how you can help with student talks, internships, one-day job shadowing, or any other help or advice for our students. And if you may indulge me, I'm going to go through some recent college acceptances. Daehan Chung was nominated to West Point Service Academy. David Dearson was accepted to SUNY Cobleskill and Culinary Institute of America. Christopher Toutan, Mercy University, Buffalo State, Berkeley College Honors Program, and Siena College. Lucio DiGiacomo, Mercy University. Gisela Pollitt, my apologies, I am tired. Gisela Pollitt, Dominican University. Alejandra Baez, Dominican University. Sophie Greenslade, Temple University, University at Buffalo. Marcus Girard, Delaware State University, which is an HBCU. I'm tired. Leo Llorente Valen, SUNY Binghamton, University at Buffalo, Manhattan University. Rachel Burton, Rutgers University, University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Abigail Stewart, Mercy University, St. Thomas Aquinas College, Alfred State College. Michaela Webb, Morgan State University, North Central Carolina University, both HBCUs. Joshua Lease, SUNY Binghamton. Brandon Gomez, Mercy University, Dominican University, Buffalo State. Pascual Gambardella, SUNY Morrisville, Alfred State College. Brianna Celentano, SUNY Delhi, Mercy University. Jameson Stevens, University of Mississippi. Kal-El Harris, University of Kentucky, University of Mississippi. Nicholas Hannigan, SUNY Binghamton. Messiah Jackson Albridge, Howard University, also HBCU. Sankam Chauvet, Pace University, University at Buffalo. These students so far have accumulated $665,000 in merit scholarships. More will be forthcoming. Congratulations to all, and thank you, parents, fellow parents. We've gotten through January 1st. Yay.
Might I add to that Woodlands Middle High School liaison report that I just saw a posting recently about the valedictorian of Woodlands Middle High School, who I believe is Leonardo Lorente Valen, which would be your son. Trustee Valen, he is your son, which I, will take a moment to congratulate you on. It is extremely difficult to be a parent and a board member. It's multiple hats. We confuse those hats, but then sometimes other people confuse those hats. Our children are dead smack in the middle of that, and it's extremely difficult to be a child of a board member. And so to have a valedictorian stay focused on their education, as well as he's an athlete, is commendable. So you did a good job. And best of luck to him in his future. Next on our agenda is everyone reported? Okay. Yes, PTA Council, sorry.
Sorry, I will try to talk very, very quickly. They are doing their budget review and checking their fundraising and donation support for PTA Council. There's been some concerns about sustaining some of their efforts and printing and stuff like that. when they're trying to do something district-wide and don't really have a fundraising mechanism. There was a presentation by Westchester foster parents, and council has more information for anyone who might be curious or have questions about being a foster parent. And there's always need in Westchester, and they specifically help connect you with different resources in the area. Some of the goals of council are to raise and award $1,000 in teacher grants, and they shared a slide presentation from one of last year's recipients. So if you are a teacher and you have a project in mind, that might be a good option for you to apply. There were, what do I have? There were a bunch of district-wide events that council plans to be present at, and they also brought up what was brought up tonight about the parent coffee at Bailey that had the Greenburgh Police Department, and they said it was a really valuable conversation and would love to see a district-wide event. They think there would be a larger reach and attendance if it was something sponsored by the district versus the PTA council. So maybe that is a community resource that we can be tapping into more. Also, there were the unit reports. The only thing that kind of stood out to me, other than the great programming that's happening in every unit, is that we had brought up before at a previous board meeting that RJ Bailey needed spare clothes in case anyone needed additional garments. Apparently, the nurse said that that was not the case. So then there was a push to rope in the district nurse to see if there are other needs, and PTA council is more than willing to participate in meeting those needs. And they are making sure all of their bylaws are up to date and trying to align them so that there's a little bit more continuity and consistency. And they are developing a volunteer appreciation, a nominating, and a grant committee, 3 different committees. And there was also a request for an exploratory look at consolidating all of the units. And they recently had beyond that meeting, they've had a meeting with Dr. Iverson that focused on inclusivity and community resources, especially for special education and E&L families, and having some of those on the website and easily accessible, which I will put on the tech committee agenda. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Jacobson. Are there any questions, comments? I just had a couple of questions. I was a little confused about the foster parent thing.
The council has had a table at different events, and they connected with a representative from Westchester Foster Parents, and it was a way to link our community with other resources in the community. And so they came and kind of told a little bit more about what they can offer and what options that they have.
And there was also a parent there, a person who had taken advantage of the program, who chimed in.
Is the district doing, the district PTAs doing something with foster?
It was more because they were just trying to link parents with community resources. And this person wanted to come and speak, and I thought it was a very helpful thing to recognize that some of our students have needs that maybe we're not always aware of and that are not always seen, and that there are resources available to them. And there are ways for community members who have time, energy, extra love, space in their world to help some of our children.
Okay. The other thing I was going to bring up, I'm looking for like emails from back in 2016. Do you know what I'm going to bring up? So as council president many moons ago, I did a district-wide event with the then assistant superintendent of curriculum. So maybe your council can work with Dr. Njoku, I don't know, but we did an event. It was, I can't even remember now, it was so many moons ago. It was on safety, and it was district-wide, breaking down and explaining to parents. I think it was on social media and internet usage. You were there, Chris, do you remember?
I've been in a couple, some of them were building specific.
But we did, I mean, we got a huge turnout. I mean, it was amazing. It was one of the first things that kind of catapulted me into working with the previous, who turned out to be the superintendent for a while. But that's what, do you remember that? It was like a big, huge district-wide thing. So I do think you guys are definitely on the right path with doing something with regard to safety district-wide, because they talked about even very young kids. Well, now they have cell phones at Leaf Jackson age, but at that time, Leaf Jackson age, just talking about surfing on the internet and safety and what parents can look for. Do you remember that?
Yes,
It was a whole
we've done
thing.
that, but our more recent safety presentation was that we brought consultants in to look at security in the district. And so we have an event every year, or we should have an event every year that will deal with that, and it's a matter of what topic do you want, what direction you want to steer it in.
Yeah.
The safety committee could.
We definitely could
do that.
But we did it in the context of the what the parents needed to know to safeguard their children too at home. So it was. I mean, I think you're right on target with that, because it's something that people still want to know about. Okay, are there any other liaison reports? Hearing none, we're going to move forward. We said number 2 was tabled because the student trustee is not here. And next board president's report, and in the essence of time, I'm going to keep it short. Yesterday was a super important day. It was a observation of Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday and his famous quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And with regard to our education system, I really urge the board and our administration, as they do start the process or continue the process of budget planning, to really focus on justice and equity for all students across the board. Our special education students, our English language learning students, our social economically diverse students, are students that learn exceptionally quickly and need more than they're getting. Just the wide gamut of people, just to please keep everyone in mind in our planning. And I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Iverson.
Yes, thank you. What I had on my list has been mentioned by several people. Regents Week, as we know, started today, and it goes through the 24th. It's been running today was very smooth. Just want to remind the parents that middle school students are in full session during this week. There's a full schedule out, and that only students who are scheduled for exams, review classes, extra help, makeup sessions, attending BOCES, or taking advantage of our IB extra help sessions will be able to come in during this week during testing hours. So just a reminder, so far no problem, but just want to remind our parents about that. I was going to talk a little bit about Martin Luther King Day. We honored and celebrated that day yesterday, but just to as we continue celebrating different cultures and the diversity and equity in our district, I'm asking parents to continue to watch your calendars as we move into Black History Month next month, and watch for some exciting and celebratory and instructional activities that will be planned across the district in all of our classes. I will stop there because the ribbon cutting, I think, has been mentioned 3 times now. Look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. Promises to be a great activity, and I think everyone will enjoy it. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Iverson. Next, we have Dr. Njoku, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum.
Good evening. You all received can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so you all received the handout with regarding the World Read Aloud Day, and it just puts a smile on my face because this is an opportunity to read to our little ones, our young ones. So volunteers are needed at ECP, Highview, and RJ Bailey. Volunteers are not needed at LFJ and Woodlands. Why? Because our students will be reading with the K and 1 first grade students. So that's going to be awesome. As stated, you can go online, click the link, submit the form, but it's also going to be posted on this flyer, so you can hover over the link. Will be posted on the website later this week. All right. And then one additional funded programs, the state-administered pre-kindergarten application is approved.
I'm sorry, what was approved? I'm sorry.
Pre-kindergarten application, the UPK, has been approved.
The grant. Oh, okay, thank you.
Money.
I was going to say, why am I blanking on that? Okay, any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none. Next, we have the Assistant Superintendent for Business.
The treasurer's report for the month of November 2024. We began the month with $40,434,589. We deposited $2,918,520 and dispersed $5,714,249 to end the month with $37,638,871. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Raymond. I did have a question about the temperatures. Maybe you guys could get the answer for me. I know that there's like a minimum and a maximum like temperatures that are allowed in the schools. And sometimes rooms, I think at this point in every building almost, may reach really high temperatures. You know, we had heard that the auditorium at Woodlands was really hot. And then, you know, everyone saw us with jackets on in the Innovation Lab that day, although that's been rectified, when it was really, really cold. What is to happen, and maybe this is Dr. Iverson also, what is the directive or the expectation to happen when temperatures exceed like that, like get way too hot or way too cold in certain rooms in the district in different buildings? And if you don't have those answers now, you can provide them later, but I did want to ask it publicly because I have heard from several parents just random concerns like, do you guys know the building's so cold? Did you know the building's too hot? The kids don't know how to dress, you know, so that comes up occasionally. And just I wanted to at least allow the administration to give some feedback to parents about that.
In the report that I didn't give, we learned that there's a software issue in all the new furnaces that we got, and they're not compensating properly, right? And so they're tuning them and fixing them and trying to get them to work. And in some cases, they'll go and you know, manually turn on and off the heat in order to keep things from getting too extreme. So yes, we're working on that.
Okay. Thank you. I know there's also been instances where teachers have had to open windows, turn on the air condition. You know, it sounds like our staff, if the kids are uncomfortable, will try to make adjustments. Okay. Thank you. Next on the agenda is, regular meeting approvals. How did we get here so quickly? First on the, it's 11:11 p.m. First on the agenda, E1, personnel instructional items.
I move that we approve the personnel instructional items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Personnel non-instructional items.
I move that we approve the non-instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. E3, board action items.
I move that we approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening with the exception of item H2, in which we exclude policy 7420, which is tabled to the next meeting.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item E4, finance items.
I move that we approve the finance items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Items E5, business item.
I move that we approve the business items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Trustee Valen?
Ms. Raymond, I'm sorry I didn't ask this earlier. If you don't have the answer now, it's not going to impede me. But is there a cost to this authorization? A specific cost for, I'm so sorry, I'm so tired, for the RIC 1 Risk Operations Center collaboration, I guess? Or is that built into the overall BOCES?
That's through both.
Through BOCES, but will that imply an additional cost? Because it wasn't in the agreement per se. I'm guessing it would be reflected next year in the,
It would be, right, it would be in our service request.
in that, okay. Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is E. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Items E6, pupil personnel services item.
I move that we approve the pupil personnel service items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's move to the end of our agenda. Is there any, thank you, is there any new business? Yes, trustee Warner.
Thank you to the district treasurer for updating the cash flow report so we can see how this year's numbers compare to last year's. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? Hearing none. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. It's 11:15 p.m. Good night.
Yay.